Bonjour.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are
Happy hump day.
Yeah.
You know,
So
whatever quarantine date is.
I did a little, further investigation on your background after doing the conference and sort of leading up to having you as a speaker, and saw the whole skydiving side. And
Yeah.
I'm not a diver, but when I was in Russian school in the Navy, I had a classmate who was a 20-year airborne guy who'd done, 10,000 jumps and
Yeah.
800 halo jumps and just was totally into it. And there's a whole, he had some funny stories about stupid, crazy jumps they did when they were bored, so including
Yes.
one with a horse, so
No.
yeah, they had a like a big cargo chute, right, for like when you're dropping a tank or something. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure the horse didn't enjoy it, but
Oh my God. Well, when skydivers get bored,
yeah, it can
things get really weird.
yeah.
Like really weird.
I have absolutely no doubt. He was from South Dakota, like this quiet, balding guy, looked like just completely harmless, and he was,
Yeah.
and how was the travel self-defense thing? Well,
Oh, you mean that I'm doing now?
yeah, tell me about
Oh, so that's another, so I'm a very odd breed of human. I have Pendulum. I
Yeah,
straddle the fence. So
yeah,
I was talking to this guy last night and I said, if you put my two cars in the driveway, that's my personality. So I have a little black on black on black on black Audi A3. And then I have my white RV. And
yeah,
that's my duality.
right,
So,
right,
so I was I had been recruited essentially to be kind of the chief of strategy
yeah,
to take a product to market this summer. And essentially it's an AI product that is me in AI form, which
yeah,
was brilliant.
yeah,
Yet, what didn't work out was that the people that were running it weren't in integrity, meaning
yeah,
everything, when they said something different came out. And
yeah,
I let that go a lot too much. And I was like, I can't give you my heart and soul and have that not work. So,
right, totally.
they wanted mini thems and who knows. So anyway, that fell away in August. And then another, it's funny because integrity showed up in August, and what happened in that point, I was just finishing up a client. So I was without quote work. And I went, and from the Profitable Leader Summit to now, I've also had a coach. And she was like, why haven't you taken the Profitable Leader Summit and just blown it up and this and that? And then she saw a post on Facebook about my late husband. Did you see that as well?
No, I didn't actually.
So he was a skydiver as well. And so I was married 11 years ago,
Yeah.
and he died 2 weeks after we got married in a skydiving accident.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he was like the creme de la creme, like just everyone loved Robbie. And he was a PhD biomedical engineer, kind, like she was just, and it wasn't because he was my husband. It's literally all his friends are like the greatest human on this planet. So, and since he died, I really became present with what I mean, the meaning of life. I can't say that, but what's more important, and went on my road trip. And on my road trip from 2014, because I quit Silicon Valley in 2014, because it wasn't human,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
no one cares about
yeah,
each other.
yeah.
So I was like, my soul's dying. So I quit, bought the RV. And on that road trip, I wrote. I'm a writer. I just have to get it out.
Yeah,
And at the end of it, I just posted for myself, and I posted just to have people journey with me. And
yeah,
people by the end were like, when's the book coming out? And it
yeah,
was written, and it's been some years. So what happened in August was I had this coach, and I posted, because the wedding anniversary is August 29th and the death anniversary is September 13th.
yeah.
And so it's like boom, boom every year. But every year I allow myself to be inspired or go through it however I want. And she saw the post of my wedding day, and she goes, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me? I'm like, because it wasn't really relevant to what we were
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
And she goes, I get now more how you live and why you talk the way you do and whatnot. And I said, yeah. And then I said something about my road trip and how I want to empower people,
So talk about the road trip. How long was it, and where did you go? And what,
Yeah.
it was an RV trip?
It's funny because I put this picture back up because I have my US map. So essentially I left August 7th, and it was no plan. I wanted no job, no one to call, nowhere to be, nothing. And I had my RV, and I chose to go northeast. That was it, because it was stay hot as long as possible,
Oh, okay.
So it was a year, a month, and 2 days with no plan. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
it was amazing. So I started, northeast. So I plowed through Nevada, and then I went through Idaho, and then down in Montana and Wyoming, and back up. And I swirled around in the East Coast a bit, and the panhandled. I went to the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
A friend of mine said, you're going to love the Boundary Waters. I spent a week. That's the longest place I spent. I spent a week there, besides Bend, Oregon. I spent 2 months there.
So
yeah.
I did a road trip. It's not that shiny, but I took in 92, so it's a while back. But I took off the summer and did a 10,000-mile motorcycle camping trip solo, and just crisscrossed, East Atlantic to Pacific and back. And I really think in those life transitions, it's a good way to kind of clear your head and think about what's
100%.
Yeah.
I think especially like on the road. I mean, for those of us who love the road, it's people ask me where I meditate. I go, when I'm driving, and they go, what? And I go, no, really. I don't even have to listen to music. I could go hours and just like, I don't know.
No,
so, that's awesome. Did your butt hurt after a while?
Sure. But I think I like to travel, and I don't travel all that much. My wife and I like to travel, but our lives are busy enough that it's sort of like when it lines up and a window opens up. And sometimes we do trips where there's really a plan and we do the plan. And sometimes we do trips where there's absolutely no plan, and that's the point. And you're just open to what happens. And the motorcycle trip was definitely one of those. And just, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to ride as long as I feel like riding, and then I'm going to camp. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's so freeing.
It's so anyway, it's just,
well, so perfectly that you said that. So this is what's happening in my life right now. So in August, she said, oh my gosh, you need to pivot and focus on this life that you can bring to people. And so you get it. So it's a fledgling right now. I'm putting the book into process. I would love to sell it for Christmas, because I think it's a super feel good and
fast.
well, it's already, it was written back in 2015.
So you have the raw material all.
I wrote it on. I'm not going to change it. It's like a daily, it's like, come on my journey. I call it my soul journey. Come on my journey for over a year. And then I'll plop in I'll plop in like things from my past, so that people are like, oh, it makes sense why she, but it's just been sitting in my closet. And so exactly what you said is exactly what I want to bring to the world. There's people that I've had so many people say, wow, I would love to do what you do. I'm sure people said that to you. Like, I would love to be able to, and I'm like, you can. And
Right.
they're like, oh, no, 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 no.
Right.
And
Right.
And so my thought process is I'm like, well, like I met this one woman in the deep South
Yeah.
and beautiful, probably in her 60s, Black woman. And she like leans around. She goes, honey, what are you doing? And I was this white girl. I didn't really
Right.
think about the location I was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
diversity thing. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm you, you're me. What? And so the conversation went, she goes, oh, honey, what are you doing? And I said, I'm traveling around the US. And she goes, you have 2 bikes? And I said, yeah, but that's if I meet a friend or something. And she goes, are you by yourself? And I said, yeah. She goes, oh, I have a dream to do that. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. She goes,
Yeah.
oh, but I couldn't. And I said, oh, you could. And she goes, oh no, I couldn't. I have grandkids. And I said, well, it's your life. And I said, and then I clicked in, right? And I thought, and I said, okay. I said, does it seem like a lot? She goes, you're so far from home. So distance was a big thing for her. And I thought, okay. I said, is there a place 1 hour from your home that you would love to see, like something within it? She goes, oh, there's this park. And I said, great. And I walked her through this, you'll get this. I walked her through this process. I said, when do you have the next day off from your grandkids? She goes, next Tuesday and Wednesday. I said, okay, great. Get up, do your morning thing. I said, then do one thing. And she goes, what? I said, put your keys in your hand. And she goes, okay. And I said, great. Now get your purse. And she goes, oh, okay. And I said, and then walk towards the door. She goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, have you ever grabbed your keys, your purse, and try to walk towards a door towards this destination? And she goes, no. And I said, well, that's farther that you've ever gotten. And she goes, oh, I can do that. I said, you never have to leave your home. I go, you made it. And I said, then get in your car. I said, and then just sit there. You don't even have to turn it on. I said, then turn the key and sit there. I said, you can stop whenever you want.
Right.
But if you don't try it, you'll never know your truth. And you on that road trip, I know I would love to. Actually, I'm gonna counter this interview again with an interview about yours, because now that I'm launching this side. So essentially, I call it. I don't know why it came out of me. I can empower men too, but because I'm just focusing, like how the Zappos guy says, like pick a market. So I'm doing female empowerment, female solo travel.
Sure.
There's a freedom and then safety. I have he's a celebrity. He's actually coming on to the webinars that I'm doing. And he's giving them, this safety stuff, this safety, self-defense, but it's actually brilliant. So he's my, celebrity person that's coming in. And then I have what I call, actually this thing, let's see if you can see it.
I actually think there's an interesting interaction between self-defense and self-esteem, that there's just certain things that you do. So I had both my kids take Jeet Kune Do, and I had no experience really with martial arts, but I took it with them partly so they could see a parent struggling with something new, and they were both, but did a whole chapter of learning Jeet Kune Do, and I think there are lessons there that are good for life, not just self-defense, right? Or not just 100% self-defense, right? There's a whole mentality around, okay, something's happening and I'm not freaking out. I'm just like, I'm in the moment.
Do I have to freak out? No, but if you don't have that training, I just started MMA actually about a month ago. And I can feel my self-confidence, and I can feel like I walk around differently, like, and I'm more aware.
There's a part of it that's being in tune with one's body. And there's a part of it that's just, I'm fully present in the moment, and I'm not spending my time freaking out about how I got to the moment. I'm dealing, and those are good things. All right. Well, you're too interesting, and we could just do this for 10 hours.
We definitely got to get on a call. And also, oh, by the way, I launched my podcast. Did you see that?
I did see that you launched it, and I've been kind of in conference mode, and
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to let you know, I'm repurposing the profitable leader.
Uh-huh.
And so yours will
Cool.
come up as well.
Yeah.
So you'll be on
Yeah.
podcast as well.
Let me know when you recycle it, because I've got a terrific public relations intern, and I'm just giving her, and she'll do something with
Oh,
it.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, it's called We Leaders. So,
Yeah. No,
it's
I like
part
it
for the
when I
people.
like the we and the me and the,
Yep.
and you, I don't know who your photographer is, but you just have the best energy shots all the time. It's really good. So,
Yeah.
the one with
Thanks.
you pointing and it's just,
Well, he was a friend of mine and he called me out. He's like, Elena, be Elena. And I'm
yeah,
like, "Brr," and he got
yeah,
me. I
no,
was like,
it totally
I
rocks.
wasn't sure. I'll give him the compliment because I
Yeah,
wasn't sure
no,
about all of them. I'm
no,
like, I don't know.
it, well, I will. So
Good. Oh, good. I'm happy because you never know.
yeah,
So
no, you got you're putting it out there, right? So
I mean,
yeah,
it's never been my comfort space to be in the limelight. But I also realize that there's no way that like we can elevate other people and voices without us being there. I mean, if it's presented to us,
right,
if we deny it, we're denying the possibility of the world being what we want it to be and how we see it possible. So, we either resign to our own
yeah,
fear or we get out of our way. Like that's
yeah.
what I decided. I was like, forget it, Elena. Like you're not here to play small, so, but yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
excited. This
So
is great.
I shot you an interview arc, and I don't know if
Yes,
you
I
had
saw that.
a chance to look at it. I'll tell you thematically what I've heard from speakers, and they're coming from like all different angles. And the kind of expertise I'm talking about with you is really hiring and thinking about hiring from the beginning. But a whole lot of it has been be intentional,
Yep.
be treat the culture and people part of it just like you would treat the business side of it. Like you have to get a feedback loop, and you have to apply process, and you have to apply measurement. But
Yep.
but we'll just do it. So I'm going to aim for 25 to 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and follow the arc. And when we get close to the end, say, hey, what's your parting advice? And we'll and then I will you and Karen Jo Madsen are going to be the closer. I want to close on culture, and
Right.
so that'll be the pair, and that'll go out Friday the 16th. So
Got it.
I'll send you all that, and we'll put
Okay.
stuff up on social, and you can retweet it if you want. And
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't tweet much, but I do LinkedIn and
Yeah, whatever.
as the 45-year-old, I'm like, I can only do so many like social media.
This is and I got this really from you. It's like I speakers are going to be all over the place on what they do, right? So my expectations are that you can do whatever you want, including nothing, right? And
Yeah.
and we'll at least try to give you a kit to make it easy for you to do something if you want. So I'm going to do like a couple seconds of silence just to make the video edit slice easy.
Yep.
And then I'll kick it.
That's perfect. And whenever, by the way, whenever you're done with this, are you okay with me getting it and repurposing any pieces of it from it? Okay, great.
So
that'll be great for us.
I'll tell you that I'm still a complete novice on video editing. And so what I'm doing is recording these in Zoom. I'm putting them up on on YouTube. I'm using the YouTube editor, and I can give you the raw. I don't know I haven't figured out yet how to give you the edited copy that's trimmed. So I cut all this stuff out where we're talking about stuff off topic. But
I can help you if you want me, if you want to jump on a call. Essentially, do you have a Mac?
I don't. I have a PC.
Oh. So okay. Well, I use iMovie, and it's just, I'm no expert, but what I've been doing is like piecing it together. And then I also do like the Do you use Canva?
Not really, no. So my
Okay.
PR person does, but tell me tell me how you're doing it, right? Like I'm here to
Yeah.
learn, and I'm totally at the beginning. So I
Yeah.
have serenity that this first year is kind of video amateur hour, and it's just the content shining through, and
Yep.
it'll be better next year, and that's just the way life should be, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
no, definitely, definitely. Yeah, and it's funny because I was the same thing when I came into the summit. I was like,
yeah,
I have no idea. And then I had a marketing coach. He's like, do this, do that, do that. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just isn't that really hard? He goes, this, that. I'm like, oh,
All right.
okay.
So
So yeah.
cool. All right.
Yeah, I will happily jump on a call with you for sure and show you my screen and what I do. It's you can repurpose a lot and it's pretty simple and Canva is going to be your life.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Oh
So
yeah, feel free. By the way, sorry. Feel free if you would mention that I'm a 13-time world record holding skydiver if you would. Just because I've gotten out of my way and I'm actually saying that now. When I start saying, people are like, wow, like really? I'm like, oh, okay. I guess it matters to people. So I don't know.
okay. So I'm happy to do it if you want. What I've done with all the speakers is just say, it's my great pleasure to welcome you. Tell us about yourself. So I'd say,
Yeah.
I'll just tee it up, but like, bring it.
Yeah.
And, okay. It's my great pleasure to welcome to VC++ 2020, Alana Fulvio. Alana, tell us about yourself.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. I'm so excited to be here with you, to be here with the other speakers, and to be sharing to your audience. So my story is I'm from the Silicon Valley, so born and raised. So I watched it go from not much of anything, a beautiful location, to what it is now. And so I I went to Santa Barbara for college. I moved to Italy after college, and I came back actually in the dot bomb. So I didn't experience the .com, I experienced the .bomb.
Mhm.
And as most do, I fell into recruiting, into HR in 2004. And what that means is I didn't really know what it was all about, but I learned very quickly what I believed it was and what I saw not working. And that's actually led me to what I do now and how I support organizations and I advise startups and I partner with my different partners. So that tenure that I had, 2004 to 2014, because I quit in 2014, Silicon Valley for a bit, but 2004 to 2014, I worked in-house as a recruiter for companies like LinkedIn. I took them public. I worked for GoPro. I was their first in-house recruiter because they needed to really bring everything in-house and create
Right.
they were about 300 people. So that was a larger startup for them to actually bring recruiters in-house. I always suggest a little earlier because you bring together, as I call the human and the resource, you bring it together early so that the foundation is strong. Right. So we did a great job.
We'll on that, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked with GoPro and then I left and I went to Medallia, which actually they went public about a couple of years ago. They did absolutely amazing. I quit the Silicon Valley in 2014, took off on a road trip for over a year by myself in my RV and landed back in the Silicon Valley. And in 2015, I founded my company, Pendulum. And the company essentially, people ask me all the time, why the name Pendulum? And if you know anything about a pendulum, the power is in balance. The power is when there's calm and peace and truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Startups, and that I stepped away from direct recruitment, even though recruiters are to be respected if they're very good, obviously, if they do what they're meant to do, which is true human matching. But I knew that what I was committed to was humans having their lives together without separatism, without there being judgment of who are you and what color are you or what where did you come from? It's you're a human, what can we offer to each other? So Pendulum was founded on the notion that we're in this together, and how do I empower and advise startups, primarily and medium-sized companies, how to bring power to their business through people connection. And so fast forward to today, I still do the same thing. I advise global organizations because we're all humans.
Yeah.
And even though there's different languages, I only work with English and Italian speaking companies, because I speak Italian,
Yeah.
but it's all about people. That's what I've committed my life to, is people connection in the most powerful way. And I really say it's, if you simplify hiring, you empower culture, and we can get into that as well. But yeah, there's the 3 P's that I talk about: people, priorities, and performance. So we can go on about that.
So before we dig deeper into hiring and getting that right and starting
Yeah.
right, did skydiving come before GoPro, or did GoPro come before skydiving?
Yeah, people actually wonder if GoPro was the fuel to.
Yeah.
So I started when I moved back from Italy in 2001. In 2002, so the dot bomb, I lost my job along with a lot of other people, right?
Sure.
And I was in a space in my life where I said, I don't know what I want. I want to be in Italy. I want to be here. I don't know what I want in my life. And I'm the type of person to say, okay, I'm going to go do something that shocks my system and that I would never do, because then I come alive again. I see possibility, right?
Right.
In what I don't know, I go do. And so that was 2002. And I started recruiting in 2004. So 2002, I started skydiving. I was, for those out there that think that, I'm an adrenaline junkie and I wasn't scared, I was petrified. I actually thought I was probably going to die. But I did it twice that day, because what I realized was that I had a perception of what I thought skydiving was going to feel like and my control over it, that I realized I didn't allow myself to have the freedom in it. So I did it the same day, and I released full control and was vulnerable to it. And I absolutely fell in love with it and the people. So it's interesting when you allow yourself to experience something for what it is versus the perception of what you think it should be. So that was skydiving
All
for
right.
me.
Cool. So let's talk about day one in hiring. So we've had conversations more than once about how it's possible to really start from the very beginning on creating a culture of inclusion, and dig into that for us.
Yeah, definitely. From my experience, what I've seen is a breakdown in in the people connection, right? And also then there's a breakdown in process because they don't implement the correct process. So you said the initiation of hiring. Uh, I believe and I know that hiring and performance, and whether it be people performance or company performance, all starts at what I call the point of concept. It's not actually a word out there. I make things up all the time, but it's called the point of concept. The point that light bulb goes off in your head, and that leader says, let's say it's one founder by himself or herself, or it's 2 founders, and their light bulb goes off, and they say, we need to hire a X. That is the point where hiring starts. No later. It's not, okay, we've created the job description. Well, what happened before that is there's biases, there's experiences, there's everything that then are dumped into that job description. And then there's also, has there been communication? So let's say there's 2 founders, right? If there's 2 founders and one has the light bulb and the other, he or she kind of tells the other founder, and they go, we're so busy, we're hair's on fire, let's just go hire, and they maybe outsource it to a recruiter, then they haven't owned. I always say leadership owns hiring. I don't care if it's Zuckerberg. I don't care if you have millions of people under you. The top down always does. So it always starts from the top down. So the point of concept that a leader has, the concept of a hire, is where the knot either unravels or stays tight. And so the thought process is when you have the concept of hiring, what do you do with that? Do you put people first? Do you put profit first? Do you put process first? What do you put first? Right. And so my methodology that I always walk people through is people is always your number one, right? You must come human focused, because essentially that's who's running the business and that's who you're hiring. So to know how people function, and then how it is the most solid, and how you're able to hire correctly, which is you have processes, you have strategic communication. And the next P besides people is priorities. You have to know your priorities. If the two founders, one's priority is to hire a mini them, and the other priority is a humanitarian who wants to hire diversity and inclusion,
Right.
you have a disconnect. And if they're not communicating, then you have a breakdown, and that next hire is probably not going to be a match. So see how it starts to unravel. And so the communication up front. So there's people, priorities, and then performance, right? So the performance comes, but I call it front loading. Hiring begins at the point of concept where you know what you need to implement, right? You need to make people, it's like the 3 M's, right? You make people your priority. You map out your priorities, each of them,
Yep.
and then you measure the performance. It's pretty simple. So that's where it starts.
So let's try to translate that into advice for founders. So those initial hires are hugely impactful in company success and also in establishing company culture. So what kinds of things if we're co-founders, can we do to make sure that we're aligned and prioritizing the right way and thinking about people the right way?
Yeah, great question, because I think there's a lot of, because the hair's on fire and, tons of plates spinning, there's a perception that they don't have time to take to actually get it right. And actually what happens is there's more time to correct the loss of people and the profit loss later. So what I always tell them is, let's say it's just you could be 1 or 2 people, right? If you're alone,
Right.
then, take a sheet of paper and write down your priorities, what it is, your core values. Do you value integrity? Do you value, diversity? Do you want, only your only race? Do you want what? And be authentic and honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be authentic and honest allows for creation. So map out on that page, what exactly is your core value? Not what you're perceiving, not what you think you should have, what your core values, and then split the page. The other side is, okay, so what am I looking for? And then you'll start to see the disconnects, right? Okay, well, I want someone in integrity, but I'm okay if they're wishy-washy.
Right.
You're going to start to see where what I call the must-haves and the nice-to-haves, right? Your must-haves are strong, but then you get wishy-washy in what exactly you are looking for. So when you're interviewing, you're not exactly clear about what you're interviewing for, and you can't do that. Let's say you're 2 founders. What I always do is, the light bulb goes off, they have a position that they want, and I say, great, let's create the job description. But the job description is made up first and foremost of what your culture is. It's not what the skills are. It's not what plants are in your, it's not what work from home, you have a Mac or a PC. It's about the humans. So again, 2 founders can say, all right, truly, we need to create our culture. My advice to any founders, do not hire until you've created your culture. Don't do it, because culture is defining, and it will be defined for you, and it will get out of hand. So authenticity, transparency, and communication are the 3 things that you need to really build in from ground zero. And so if there's, let's say, 2 people, have that conversation authentically, transparently. You might have disconnects. When I advise my clients, I usually come in, sometimes I come in at 10 people and there's a couple of founders and they're astounded that there's disconnects in their culture.
Yeah.
Well, it's only because, and they're not wrong, but it's only because they haven't actually intentionally created the process that they are going to create culture, but define it, right? So I say, have the conversation and talk about your different values. What do you value? What do you want in the company? What kind of, do you want integrity to be a part of it? Do you want family first? Do you want diversity? And, you'll be surprised what your other co-founder might say, and you'll start to have debates. Let those debates come up, have those debates, but remember, be authentic, be vulnerable, and have communication, because again, it'll unravel later. So create your culture before you hire. Do not hire without having a foundation built of culture. Be intentional about it, and be very real about it. And then once you have your culture defined, then add in the skills that you want. Again, bring authenticity and bring strategic communication and transparency, because, and this is what I always tell people, don't assume. So create culture first. Don't assume everyone knows what you want or what they want. So have the conversation of what kind of person do we really want, right? Who do we really want within the organization?
And how do you help founders have that self-awareness if they're not really authentic, or if they haven't sorted through those issues? Because this is almost, founder therapy, right?
Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
How do you
that's what I feel like I do.
Get them to see that this alignment will let them be able to scale and execute with quality and speed?
Yeah. One aspect is before I do any work, we go back into the stats, and I walk them through the stats of how many startups succeed and fail every year.
Right.
And then we also dig deep, because as a researcher and as a recruiter, we dig deep into the why. Why is it that they failed? And in skydiving, it's interesting. When an accident happens, it's never the decision right before the accident that made the accident happen.
Right.
It was the decisions before.
10 steps back, or yeah.
Exactly. So like, for instance, if they don't create their culture, they might blame it on the employee that wasn't doing their job, or the manager that wasn't managing them right, when actually it's their responsibility. So essentially, for them to look at, how they're going to be, how they're going to create it. Ask me your question again.
How do you help founders get the self-awareness if they're not being authentic with each other? And what are the red flags? What are the tests that I should apply as a founder to think about? Am I really self-aware? Is my co-founder self-aware?
Got it. So there is again, to look at, I think a lot of founders, and I being one of them, you can feel like the world's on your shoulder, and sometimes you're the only one that's ever done this. And it's not true, it, but you can feel like it. And so again, look at what has succeeded and what hasn't. Look at the companies right now and this is what I tell them, let's go do some study on the companies right now that are succeeding. What do they have in common, right? Before I give them the founder therapy, it's before you bring in the human bias, because that can get intense, right? Go look at the actual stats. Go look at the companies right now that have not just survived, but are thriving. And what is at their foundation? What is at their core? And so when you go look out there, you look at the consistencies. So I say, great, what are the consistencies throughout all of these organizations? What are the consistencies? The LinkedIn's, the Facebooks, the Salesforce, et cetera. And a lot of companies are getting on board earlier now, but they have their Zappos. I mean, it's a great example of, culture first, create that.
Right.
And understanding and looking at the majority of those companies, if not all, have inclusion as one of their top priorities as that as well. That's a huge one. And so before you get into the next step would be commit to being authentic and vulnerable and transparent and communicative with your co-founder. Because if you're not, and we can take it out of work and go into marriage.
Sure.
Yeah. If we were to say marriage, because being a co-founders is a marriage. Now take it out of work and put it into personal life. Yeah. Everyone would say, oh, that's not going to work. Yeah, they don't communicate well. They're over by. It's the same. It's human nature, right? It's exactly what we do inside of work is what we do outside of work. So the first thing is go look at what is succeeding out in the market. I always say, don't repeat history. We're not going that way. We're going forward. So look at, even if you're a 2-person startup and you're looking at Facebook and has thousands of people, you can emulate that. Mm-hmm. You can emulate that. And it's not too early, I'll tell you. Then the second thing is really get transparent. It's like in a good marriage, you're transparent, you're open, you're communicative, and talk about what is important. Again, create that culture. What is important to you, and ask what is important to the other ones. And the biggest thing is to listen, is to really listen.
part of transparency or creating a culture of transparency, it seems to me, is getting to an environment where people are able to talk about what they feel vulnerable about, right?
100%.
So what can you do as a founder to foster that? And what can you do as an investor to make that possible, right? Because it's really intimidating to talk to an investor and say everything's great, and you really want to get to a dialogue where you can say, these are my problems, because then they can help you.
Right. Well, I think the first thing is to one, accept, and this might sound woo-woo, but to accept truly who you are and to understand that who you are is great and it's needed in the world. And the more you hide from your truth, because there's no perfect human in the world, there never will be. And so therefore, if you don't accept yourself for all that you are, and you don't allow, and you're not vulnerable and share that with the investors or share that with your co-founder, then what you're working on, what you're doing is you're building a foundation on cracks.
Yeah.
And so that's actually going to sabotage you later on. So one thing is one, the world needs your magic, your intelligence, your greatness. And the more you hide it, the more you're not vulnerable, the more you're not authentic, the less you're actually yourself, and the less everyone gets to know your true self. You don't actually, when you're not your authentic self, you attract what's not you.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if you want the right investors, you need to be authentically you, right?
Because otherwise you're selling them something that then you have to live up to that's not what you want to do. And there's all that cognitive overhead of living the lie.
100%. And living that life. I mean, I know as a founder, I did that for a little bit. I hid a bit about, who I was and whatnot, because I didn't want to, not ruffle feathers, but, and then I just started feeling incorrect about my own life. I wasn't living my true life. So first and foremost, it always starts, no matter if it's the culture conversation or it's trying to get an investor or building your teams of, diverse, people, is start with yourself. One is go inward. Don't beat yourself up, because I know I can be a culprit of that. Humans do that, right? I'm wrong. I'm bad.
We all do it.
Yeah. Right. Go inside and say, all right. And have your conversation, your authentic, transparent conversation inward first, and just get real with yourself. Am I being transparent to myself? Am I being vulnerable? Go inward. And then when you go to talk to other people, flip that scenario and ask yourself, am I being open to their transparency? Am I being open to their truth? And how you know that you're not is that when someone, there's disagreement. Not everyone's going to agree. I've never met someone that everyone agrees with all the time. So there's going to be people that you agree with and not, and vice versa. But notice when what you do as a leader, if you are truly being vulnerable and authentic with yourself and outward, then when someone says something you don't agree with, do you respond with open and lean in? Wow, tell me more. And then you're open to the inclusion of their diverse thought processes and, your own growth, or do you shut it down because it doesn't work for you? And in my opinion, that second scenario stunts growth, across the world. So
let me ask you something. As a recruiting professional and coach, what's your advice to job seekers that engage with early stage companies on how can they look across the table and pick up the cultural cues, good or bad, that will tell them that they're going to a place that has those values or doesn't have those values?
100%. That's a great question, because, well, one, most job seekers or career seekers don't look at the job search as an actual technical process. And it really is, right? So when it comes to looking for, is this the right culture match? There's a couple of things that you can do. Some things will be there, some won't. One thing is, do your research on the company. And that sounds plain, but as a researcher, as a recruiter, go deeper than the 99% of others who are searching for a job.
Yeah.
By the way, 100% of people apply for jobs and everyone wonders why they don't get callbacks. That's the last strategy that you should take. So the first thing is be a true researcher. one thing is how to read that website. I walk my clients through that all the time. And I say, great, what do they talk about? If they have a website, even if it's so short, even if it's small, what do they say?
Right.
Do they talk about, you can read between the lines. If they talk about, we want to build a collaborative, start circling words,
Sure.
collaborative, family, diverse, then you can put that, and that is their culture.
Sure.
That is their culture. When you're in the interview, then you take what you've researched on and you are aware, right? And transparent, and you watch, is what their actions and words are matching to what they've put out to the world. If it's off, then a yellow flag goes up.
Yep.
And you start asking, I would take these questions. I would take the culture that you've gone online, and I would just say to them, I would say, I've done my research on you.
Sure.
And I found these cultural aspects. Can you talk to me about that?
Right.
If the company can't speak to it, then they're disconnected. And I can guarantee you they haven't even done their own culture mapping.
Right.
If they can answer that and they can give examples and show you, and you can look around. Like a lot of candidates go in because they might be nervous or whatnot.
Yeah.
And especially with startups, you want to see how people interact. You want to see how people are communicating together and if it works for you or not. So I'm a hyper aware human. I'm also like a psychic intuitive, so I can see things far deeper. But for those who are not or are, take the first part and then match it up to the second part. If it doesn't match up, it's just like dating. Again, if a person says one thing and shows up as another and the actions don't match, it's not going to be your right match. Don't stick around. And the other thing too, with small startups, and again, as a founder myself, our heads are spinning and we're doing 500.96 things. Ask yourself if you really are that type of person, because it takes a certain type of person to love being in startups. And I love it. I love the hair on fire. I love the building. I love the growing. But again, be aware and be real with yourself and ask questions when you're in the interview. What does this position, how does this position make an impact on the current and the future of the business? And how do you see me partnering with you? If you're going for an interview with, 2 founders and no one else, or even 20 people, 50 people, you have access to the founders.
Right.
Ask them.
Right.
Be vulnerable with them and get the information that you need to have your life. That's always what I tell those coaching clients is you are just as important as they are in that interview. And one thing I always say to my coaching client, the companies that I advise, is every candidate that walks in the door, you should have gratitude for. And the reason is they're giving you the opportunity to live your dream. You should be giving that back to them. And if it's not a match, you go separate ways in gratitude. But if you do, you gotta be, don't hold back questions, get clarity, know who you are, know who they are, and then see if it matches. Because if you don't, there's just going to be breakdown. So that's what
And I'm a big believer in doing your homework, and questions reveal more than statements. So getting conversation going. Do you have some last words for the audience on driving inclusion and what they can do right now to push that value forward in their lives? So
first and foremost, I will say right now, especially, is a defining moment in the world and in history. And it is to the benefit of every human, regardless of race, color, religion, whatever it might be, to link arms with those that are not them and are not them, so that there's a diversification of perception, of ideas, of backgrounds, of everything. I really believe it, linking arms with others and being open to the possibility of what they have to bring you is where the power lies. That is where the power lies. And in human resources, I believe we're all in human resources. And the reason is I wrote an article on this. It's online. It's how to be a human and a resource, because honestly, human resource, and I'm not going to probably be a fan of a lot of human resource people right now, but there's not a lot of humanity or being a resource for each other in human resources, and it's not in the world, on the majority. That's where it's going. That's where the power is. The only way we individually get our lives is by linking arms with someone else. For instance, someone made my pillowcase, someone made this bracelet, someone made the computer. I don't know who they are.
Right.
But when we come to understand that, one, we're not alone. Founders, I get it. If you feel alone sometimes, we get it.
Yeah.
The second thing is that to implement a mindset of inclusion offers you the possibility of the world, essentially offers you the possibility of having far more than you are and far more than they are. When you put yourselves together, you can be just greater than the whole. Inclusion is diversifying your board like you do, and diversifying your people and your culture is the power in business and also in life in general. So I would say, understand that humanity and being human centric is the first step to take to building an inclusive and diverse culture and board and everything else. And again, first and foremost, get really real with yourself. Get real. If there's a little bit of racism and there's some racial, just get real with what there is. And one thing I always tell people is go play the stranger game. Go out and talk to 5 people that you don't think you'd ever talk to, that aren't you, maybe different color, different religion, and have a conversation and just say, don't ask them what they do for work and don't ask them where they work.
Yeah.
Just talk to them about who they are. And that'll help you also. Maybe you don't want to start in business to do it.
Do it in regular social comfort zone. Yeah.
Totally. 100%. And you'll start to see, well, if you're open, you'll start to see that it's not about that their color makes them different.
Yeah.
It is different, but yet at the core, we all have a heartbeat. We all bleed blood. We all breathe. We're all human. And to bring the human centricity first, change your lens from we're different to we're all one. And yes, we're different. And the power lies in our uniqueness and to harness the differences. So again, you got to be real with yourself to be able to create that, because there's a lot of facades going on now as we want diversity and inclusion. Okay, you've created the processes,
sure,
but your mentality has not shifted.
Right.
That's not diverse or inclusive. So you've got to start with the mentality first. So that's what I would say, is just have those conversations, get uncomfy. Uncomfortableness is great.
Fantastic. Alana, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, definitely.